Hello everyone, Xavier Radix here. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a different video. I wanted to make a video about how I produce and mix and write my tracks. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take one of my latest songs, The Anchor of Hope from my album Hidden World. We're gonna go through all of the tracks and I'll explain along the way how I did it or what I'm doing. And I think this is going to be a fun and interesting video to see. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So here's the project file for The Anchor of Hope. Now, these are not all of the tracks. I split it up into different project files because I don't have the strongest PC in the world. So in order to, save my PC from not dying, I just split it up into different parts. So what have we got here is just the basic rhythm section and some synthesizers and certain stuff. And this song, there's actually not a lot going on. Normally I have a lot more tracks. I like to use a lot of layers of sounds. I like to use different details, small little details in my songs. Yeah, for this track I wanted to make it a little bit more simple, but there's still a lot going on. So let's just go track by track, see how I did it, see how I mix, and why I chose to do it, and all that stuff. Okay, first of all, let's just hear for a second how this sounds. This is not how the finished project sounds. This is just the basic mix. So we got quite a few things going on here. First, let's start here with the drums. Now, let's solo the drums for a second. There's quite a few things going on here in the drums. So basically, I got this basic rhythm going through the whole track, and the only changes I make is some tom fills. I've got the toms right here, on these tracks, as you can see. Those are just simple tom fills, and I change from side stick to snare during the song. So what you can hear here, I'll let you hear. Snare. Alright, so let's look at the individual drum tracks here. Okay, so first of all, the bass drum. Now, the drums I'm using, I like to use drum machines. Even though I'm a real drummer, I like to use drum machines for the songs that I make, and because I just like the sound of them. And the one I'm using now is, for this track, I'm using the TR-505 from Roland. I just found some samples of that online and used those, and I think they sound brilliant. I mean, they sound really clean. I mean, it's a pretty underrated drum machine, I believe. But I think it sounds great, and it fits this track well. I really like the snare, for instance. That sounds like a proper nice 80s snare. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's start with the kick drum here. So it's just simple stuff. Let's just open the mixer here. And as you can see, here's the kick. And the only thing I'm using is some EQ. So here you go. This is what I'm using on the kick. So what I've got going on here, I do this basically for every single drum. I do separate EQ for each drum. So what I've got going on here is just a slight high pass at around 43 hertz, 43.9 hertz. And, that's just to take out the low end here. I'll stop this for a second. So basically, this is a good tip if you want to make your mixes sound very clean, okay? So what you want to do, for every drum, you know, for every instrument for that matter, because I do it on everything, use a high-pass filter. Why would you think, why should I use a high-pass filter that takes out low end and all that stuff? Well, let me tell you. Okay, you've got a hi-hat, right? When do you ever need low end on a hi-hat? You don't, right? Okay. So what you do, you just take it out. You might not even hear the difference, but in the final mix, it will all sound really clean and everything will come together nicely because there's no interfering frequencies with each other. So what I'm doing here is just doing a slight, like a slight high pass, and I'm also doing a low pass because, again, I mean, you don't need 18K on a bass drum, unless you're doing like the metal stuff where you need that click sound, but that's probably triggered most of the time. So, but in this case, you don't need, I'll show you. I'll turn it off. This is off. On. Off. You hear that? That sizzling high end? That's exactly how you want it. Well, that's at least how I wanted it for this track. Doesn't mean that goes for every track. I do it differently every track, okay? It's not like I do the same steps every song. But I do use high pass and low pass filter pretty much in everything. I don't boost anything. I rarely boost anything. Oh, sorry, I forgot to show you. I've got a reverb going on here, and I'll tell you what this reverb is. I use impulse responses. Now, I found these impulse responses for the Lexicon PCM90, which is an old unit from, I think, the early 90s. I'm not sure. Late 80s, early 90s. The PCM lexicons have been well known for being great units, and I love those units. I wish I had a real one, but I just have to live with impulse responses, which is pretty damn great because I could use almost exactly the same sound. This is basically a recording of the reverb that you're using on what you can use it on whatever you like. So I've got this preset going on here. It's called Great Hall. I think I've had this on a lot of tracks here. I think that I even have that on. Yeah, I have it on a bass. I have it on the snare as well. So that's what I'm using. And as you can hear, I don't use a lot on the kick. There's a slight trail. Sometimes I don't even use reverb on the kick because that tends to get a little muddy. But this preset is really nice and crispy. There's no really low end to the reverb itself, so that really helps. So let's go to the next track here. The next track here is snare. That beautiful 505 snare. Alright. So what have we got going on here? You can see I'm also using a high pass at around 104K. Oh, not K, 104 Hertz. And I'm doing a slight boost at about 10,000 Hertz. Just a little high-end boost. I'll turn it off and I'll show you the difference. You see? So it's really muffled. Do that. Just nice, clean top end. And I'm just doing a low pass at around 8,000 Hertz, as you can see. So I've got a little more reverb going on here on the snare. Let's just go back to the snare. Now you might think, oh, that's set lower, but I set this setting for the bass drum. I set it to apply minus 18 dB, so it's a lot lower volume. And I set this one to normal. So I'll show you. I'll turn it all the way up. That's full reverb right there. So let's get that back. Right. So that's how I got the snare. And here, excuse me, sorry, I've got the Rimshot separate on a separate track because I wanted to EQ it separately. Again, I'm kind of doing the same thing here. I'm doing a little bit more. I'm doing a little bit more high pass on this one, and I'm doing kind of the same. Yeah, this is kind of the same boost here, just a little bit more dB than the last one, and doing the same technique here by low passing the rest of the frequencies. Again, I'm using the Great Hall with basically the same setting as the snare, because I wanted to keep it kind of the same. The hi-hats, as you can see, this is by the way how I use samples. I just put them to the grid here, and to add a little bit of dynamics to the hi-hats, what I do is I just change the volume, slightly on, more dramatically on some. So you get that nice rocking motion, I even got an open hi-hat going on here. Right. So let's see what's going on here, okay? I've got a lot more high passing going on here. Well, not a lot more, but yeah, about 360 hertz, I'm high passing a lot because, again, when I take it out, I'll let you hear how it sounds when I take it out, right? Hear that thump? I'll try to get that frequency and show you. It's around here. It's that frequency. You can see that pump up here, right? So when we use this, turn this off. So you kind of hear the thump, right? When I do high pass on, it gets rid of that. So now it's just nice and clean. I do a little bit, kind of the same, around 12K, a little bit higher boost here, and the rest gone. You don't need any more. And let's see here. Again, the Great Hall. I really like this preset for this song. And I'm doing just a tiny bit. I'm even doing minus 18 dB here. And I'm doing minus 10 dB here. So I've got it set really low. I don't like adding too much reverb on hi-hats and stuff like that. I think the high end of the track will end up getting really cluttered sounding because the reverb would be ringing through the whole thing, For panning, I get this slightly pan to the right. I like to pan my hi-hats to the right. Some people like to pan them to the left. I just personally find it, I like the sound of it pan to the right a little bit more. It's not really that panned for this one. Normally I pan it a little bit more, like around 30%. For the toms, let's go to the toms here. Right? So I've got a lot more reverb going on here. Again, I'm using, not a lot, but I'm doing some high passing and low passing here. So you see, not a lot, I want to get the full sound of the toms. And yes, I do have them separately EQ. Oh, that's not what it's supposed to do, sorry. As you can see, I slightly have it differently. So as you can see, that's the same. I do the high pass the same, but a low pass, I'm doing quite a bit differently, as you can see, from two toms. So let's see. I think on both toms, I have the same thing. I've got the snare gate, which is one of my favorite presets to use from the impulse responses. And the snare gate, it's got that classic reverb. It's a long reverb that cuts off with like a gate at the end, This is like everyone did this in the 80s, And I use this gated reverb a lot I use another preset I like too, which is non-linear. I'll let you hear how it sounds for a second. On solo this one. You see? That's a lot faster, you know? Let's see here. Let's get it back to snare gate. See, that's a long trail, but it cuts off at the end. That's just really cool. I love that sound. And right here, we got some congos. Or congas, whatever. Percussion. So that just goes through the whole track, the same motif here. Let's see. I've got a slight boost here at around 556 hertz. Removing or high passing at 152. And like the really high frequencies at around 15K. I'm removing those. Quite a bit of reverb on this one. Let's see. Yeah, it's the Great Hall again. I've got it set to normal, and I've got it set pretty high. So as you can see, you can really hear the reverb tail right there. So let's see here. The next one is the tambourine. Now, I think this tambourine, that's definitely. The tambourine I like to use a lot is from my General Music WS2 workstation keyboard from 1990, I believe. And the drum sounds on there are pretty damn, cheesy at times. But the tambourine, sound really nice. Nice and crisp, just like the perfect tambourine in them, I believe, but without any EQ. It sounds really soft. That's how it sounds dry. Well, without the reverb, let's check it out. Right? Sounds really dry. So what I do, I add a lot of top end. Let's see, I've got 12 dB, around 10K. Again, I'm doing a lot of high passing here. I'm high passing at about 400 hertz, and I'm moving just the sizzly high end a little bit. But as you can see, it's a lot more crispy. Now, if I add the reverb on top of that, now that just makes the beautiful tail. Again, the Great Hall. Like, it's great. What can I say? The last track here for the drums and percussion, I've got this Gabriel bell. Now, I've heard this in a few Peter Gabriel tracks. I love Peter Gabriel, and I listen to a lot of his albums, pretty much everyone. And this is from the Us album, I think. It's a song called Love to Be Loved. Okay. Yeah, so I've got this. I took this sample from this bell that I really liked. You can hear? It's pretty low. I turn it up, right? Right? You can hear like the synth trail because this is like at the end of the song. But I really like that bell. So I wanted to use it in this track. So what I've got going on here, pretty much kind of the same as the tambourine. A lot of reverb this time. Yeah, a lot of reverb. Got it set to normal, no minus dB. I've got like minus 3 dBs or 4 dBs in total here. Again, the Great Hall being used here. Let's see. Yeah, kind of the same settings. Yeah, pretty much. And this just really works out in the whole of the drums. So I'll let you listen to all of the drums and percussion. That just adds a little flavor to the drum track. Now that's the kind of detail I like to add in my music. And also, as you can see, the Gabriel bell, as we're calling it, I'm using that exactly at the same time as the tambourine hits. So you're getting As you can hear. You hear them both mixed together, you know? So you get that nice bell in the background, but you still get that sizzly high end from the tambourine. I think that just sounds pretty damn good if you ask me. There's a little bit more tambourine going on at this part. You can hear the congas are pretty pronounced throughout the whole track, actually. As you can see, it's like all the way. Got a little fill there, you know? Just a simple drum fill. I don't want, you know, with a ballad song, you don't want to do like crazy Phil Collins fills or something like that, you know? So the toms, you know, just tasty fills like that. And it goes back to that one. And as you can see, I only play the Gabriel bell. I'm only playing that at the Rimshot part, so... Or like the verse part, I guess, you know? Really adds a nice flavor to the tracks. Okay. Next one on the list. Now we get the drums right. I think that's already a long explanation about the drums here.